there's a lot to say about type, and we're going to get to all that. But for right now, area type, let's agree that there's a use for it, but it's not early in our journey through typography. Okay? You build a box and you say, that's exactly the size, but this type is too small, so you change the size, and you get this red plus sign, which means, hey, there's more text here that's not showing. And you can make it flow to another column and all that. We'll get to that. But for right now, just point type. Okay? Hit the T to get the type tool and click. And by default, it goes to Myriad Pro 12 point. But because we're in the same document and I just changed that area type to 24 point, now when we click, we automatically get Myriad Pro 24 point. So let's type something. We'll type 12 years because Dominic was talking about 12 years of schooling. And then when we go to this black arrow, the cool thing about not drawing the rectangle is it doesn't matter how large we make this. We never run into, and you can, by the way, you can double click here and, give another figure in order to make this larger. And yes, because you see a bounding box, you're going to say, oh, I can grab a corner and I can change the size like this. Oh, look, I can make it tall and skinny. Don't ever do that. That is torturing typography. Always hold shift so that you constrain, okay? And then you let go of the cursor before you let go of shift. And then you look up here and you say, what size is that? Holy moly. Yeah. Illustrator is just completely comfortable with tiny little fractions. So if you want to work at a particular size, every typeface is going to be different. And speaking of every typeface, I have way too many on my system. And Illustrator has the ability to show you what things look like, but almost always it's going right over the top of what you're working on. So a better way to work, and there's always dozens of different ways to work. I don't have the type tool. I have the black arrow. This has been selected in Myriad Pro. I just highlighted it. Now if I hit the down arrow, I will start cycling through typefaces. And let's say I'm trying to figure out one that works. And let's say I like this, but there's a big gap here. Can I remember this? Chances are no. So I'm going to pull this up, and then I'm going to hold down Option and drag out a copy. And then with that copy selected, I can click up here and hit the down arrow and start going through and looking for, a different type. What is that? Okay, we'll talk about a lot when it comes to typography. But for right now, being able to cycle through typefaces, knowing how to resize without, don't ever do this. I'm just going to be so disappointed if you're squishing the font. Oh, I'll put it back. I'll make it just right. Well, in the type panel, I can show you how to make it just right. But we'll talk about strategies and when it is actually okay to break rules, but certainly not when you're just beginning. So I'm going to undo that and get back to where I was. And we're going to learn about stuff, like kerning. Like, why is there a great big space between that 1 and 2? And it's because the designer didn't put in kerning pairs. Or if he or she did, they didn't take much care in doing that just right. And you might see there are other areas where we can clean this up. So kerning, tracking, leading, all kinds of wonderful things. We're going to learn so much about typography, but right now, use point type. Don't click and drag a rectangle. Don't do that. Why did it do that? Why didn't it do the lorem ipsum? Because the last typeface I was on, is the one Illustrator remembers. It remembers the typeface and the size. And if I had squished this, it'd remember that too. So don't squish things.